Welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be creating this amazing website, and as you can see, I'm running through this website. It has a fixed navigational bar, and if you notice, if I click on any of the navigational bar, it takes me to the appropriate part of the web page. So today I'll be introducing a concept called the negative spacing. If you notice that we have lots of white space in between, so please, the space between this item and then the other items are called white space or the negative space in either graphic design or UI design. So today we'll be exploring that feature. Please, if you're new to my channel, kindly subscribe, and if you're a regular visitor, please kindly leave a comment and a thumbs up. Let's get into it. So from our design, we are going to be using these three colors, so you can pause the video and copy the color codes. These are the color codes here, so we need these three colors. So today we are going to be working on a desktop. So I'll be using the MacBook Pro 14. You can pick any other device you want, but if you want to get the same result with me, so you pick the MacBook Pro 14 inch. So here I already know what the height it's going to look like, so I'm automatically going to change my height to 3080. So please, this would be my height. But please, we said don't ever increase the width. If you've watched our beginner course series, we said you are not allowed to play with the width, but you can play with the height. So I'm going to change this to a white. Okay, it's already white. So the next thing we want to do here is we want to create our navigational bar. So to do that, I'm going to start with the logo. So okay, before we do that, let me introduce this concept I use in my day-to-day project. Before I start any project, I always add a layout grid. So if I add this, we're going to change the grid settings from grid to columns. And in the columns, I use 12 columns, and then I use 160 for my margin because of the nature of our project. So once you've done this now, I think we're good to go. So the next thing I also do is I introduce ruler in case I don't want to keep this layout grid. So to get a ruler, you're going to click on your Figma file, the Figma file here. So click on Figma, then view, then you see ruler. You have to check that I have my rulers here. So once you check it, you're going to see these numbers here. So if you click here and drag this, I want to drop this exactly at the beginning. So if I zoom into the last pixel, you see it's stuck at this beginning here. So I also want to do this to this other side. So I will click and then drag this to this section also. So please, it's always advisable you zoom out to the last pixels. So once you drag it, you see we have our margin. So all the content of my web page will be from this end, this beginning, to this end here. So once you have this, you can click on the frame. Make sure you're clicking on the MacBook, and then you can hide the layout grid. Please don't take that away. Don't delete it. Just hide it. So now what we want to do now here is we want to create our navigational bar. So we're going to start with the logo, which is the E-cup. So I will just create a text here, E-cup. So the font I'll be using is SF Pro Text. So please, this is not a default font. You have to install it. But if you don't have this, you can follow along with Molish. I think this Molish, this or Poppins. So, but I'll be using the SF Pro Text here. So you have to install this font on your computer. So for this, I'll be resizing this. So let's resize this to 20. So we're keeping the bold. Then the next item we want to add here are our navigational bar here. So I'll add a text home. Please, you can add it in any manner you want. I will add home. Then I will add service. We're going to arrange them. T, you can also duplicate. Then I will add team. Then I'll add, I can duplicate this and then create contact from this contact. So I'm just doing them independently so that you can see there's no approach for this. So now what I want to do now is, you see, I'm trying to align them together. I can just drag them randomly, just drop them here. We're going to align them automatically. So please, I'm going to select all this item and then resize them to 16. So I'm going to resize these items to 16. So after doing this, what I want to do here is I want to make sure they are on a straight line. So if you have all the items selected, please use these alignment tools. You see they are automatically aligned now on the same line. So the next thing we want to do is we want to make sure that the space between each of this item is the same. So for me to do that, I'll click on this item, then horizontal spacing here. So now I'm sure that all the spacings here are even, so I can group this item, Ctrl G. So that means I'm just done with this item. So the next thing I want to create here is my button. So I'll be creating a button here. So I can just drag that and then drop it somewhere here. So here, if you're using the same height and width that I'm using, it's 153 by, let's make this 52. Let's see. Okay, 52. So that's what I want to use. So I'm giving this a border radius of 10. So let's see how this looks. This looks great. So here we want to change the color of this to, this is our color. But if you notice that our grid system now, it's affecting my design. So if you want to see clearly, please make sure you click on the MacBook Pro and hide the layout grid. Please don't delete it. So here right now, I'll try to align these items. You see, I can just do that manually. So now what I want to do here is I want to add a text. Let's talk. Let's talk. So here I can leave this also as 16. So, but I want to group these two items together. Please, I'm just trying to zoom in so that you can see. So I'll click on the first text here. So I will hold shift and then click on the rectangle. So I want to make sure this is aligned. So I'm going to use the align horizontally, then vertically. So these items are aligned. So what I'll do is I'll use the Ctrl G to group this item. So I will quickly rename my group to maybe BTN, button, here. So this other group here, I'll quickly rename that to links, here, links. So now we have our e-cup, that's our logo. So I can decide to increase the size of our logo a little so that it just differentiates it from others. So I'll make this 25. Okay, this stands out, and I can also change the color. So please, if you want to use the same thing I'm doing here, if you click on your text, you can press letter I for the eyedropper and then pick this color here. So now we have first item. Please, this is a group, so we regard it as one item. Then this is also a group, is an item. So we have 1, 2, and 3. So what I want to do is I'll select these 3 items and then I'll try to align them, make sure they are on the same line here. So now we want to make sure that the space here and then here is the same. So we're going back to our horizontal alignment and then I'll click on that. So now all the spaces in my navigational bar are the same. But if you notice this button, I want this button to touch this line here. So let's zoom in. I want this button to touch this line here. So if you zoom in, you can see better. So now at this point, it's touching this line here. So I would do that again. Click on this. Make sure that this e-cup is touching this extreme here. Okay, so let's zoom in. Please, if you zoom in, you're going to get a better result. So now this is touching. So we zoom out and then I'll do that horizontal spacing one last time. Horizontal spacing. So now we have all our items. You see it's aligned. They are starting on the same line with our margins. So right now what I want to do is I want to group this item using Ctrl G here. So the next thing we want to do here is, since this is an item already, one item, so we want to create a line underneath this item here. So for me to do that, I could use a pen tool, but I'll prefer I use a rectangle to just drag the rectangle somewhere here. Somebody will like, why are we creating a line with a rectangle? So the trick here is that we're going to change the height to 1. So changing the height to 1, I can just do this here. So once you change the height to 1, you'll see we have this amazing line here. So I can just drag this down a little. So what I want to do here is I'll make sure that, okay, I will just create a rectangle. Please, this is just a simple trick. That means there are other ways in which you can achieve this. So I want to make sure that this is between this item here. So this is what I want to do. I want to make sure that the space at the bottom here and at the top here is the same. So I'm creating this rectangle as a reference point. So if I select this rectangle and then this text, please notice I'm not selecting this line here. So what I will do here is I'll just align them here. So that means I'm done with this. I can delete this item here. So now we are done with the navigational bar. So we can click on this and then together Ctrl G, and then we're going to rename this to our nav. So this will be our nav. So now that we're done with the navigational bar, so the next thing I want us to do here is I want us to add a text. So I can click on my text and then add a text here. So I already have a text that I want to use, so I will just drag that to our screen. I'll bring it here. So please, you can kindly pause the video and then type this text. So what I want us to do here is this text, I want to break it into 3 lines. So here, where we have your, I'll break this here. So, and then where I have presence, I will also break that here. So this is how we want our text to look like. So the next thing here is I want to change this and give it a size of 48. And then this is bold, 48 bold. We want this here, and I want it aligned here. So 48 bold. Please, you can pause the video and type the text 48 bold. So now the next thing I want to do here is the space between the line height. I want to work on the line height here. So here I would say the line height should be 60. This time it shouldn't be auto. Okay, 60. So you notice there is a space that has been added here. So please, this is for the text. So the next section we want to work on is the images, but we're going to add rectangles in place of the images so that towards the end of the video we can add all the necessary images. So we're going to create the first rectangle here. So this should be 160 by 193. So that will be our first image here, but right now we're not dropping any image, so we're going to give it a border of 10 here. So I can duplicate this again, Ctrl D. I can drag this. So this time the next one here, I'm going to change the width to 256 here, and then the height should be 440. So please be careful not to change the X or Y axis. So you have to change the width and then the height. So I can duplicate this again. And then the next image I want to add has a width of 355. Then the height, okay, the same height. Then I'm going to duplicate this again. Then I'm going to create an image. This time the width is 256. Then I'll change the height to 316 here. So this is how we want this, and then we want this to touch this line here, and then I also want this to touch this line here. So that means we have all these aligned. You notice that they are on the same line. So the first thing I'll do here is I'll select them, and then we're going to go to these our settings and make sure we have our horizontal spacing. All the spacing here should be the same. So please, now that we have this item, we can now group this item here because we've already done the alignment. Ctrl G to group them, and then I can bring them down a little. But then the trick now is we want to make sure that the space between this item here, this one and this one is the same. So I can use this and then space it here. But if you don't have that icon here, please, you can go back to your option and say, okay, vertical spacing, and then I'm going to space this here. So now I have all this my item well spaced out. So the next thing we're going to do here is we want to add the service section. So in the service section, please, I noticed that this item here, it's not touching this space in here. So please, we can push that a little to make sure that it's highlighted here. Okay, so I will do the horizontal spacing again. So I'll click on this horizontal spacing. Okay, I think it's now perfect. So the next thing we want to do now here is we're going to create the service section. So in the service section, I'm going to add this, and then I'm going to make sure that we have this icon here. So I will be adding some random text, but we need two of this. So I'll duplicate this and then bring this here. So literally what I'll do is I'll copy this text here, Control A, and then I'll create a new text here and then paste this. Please, if you have time, you can copy those texts here. So what I want to do here is I want to change this text to, let's try 20, okay, 16 here. So, but I'm going to increase this here. Okay, we directly broke this text the other time. So here, please, the line height, please, I'm going to change that to 0. Okay, sorry, it should be auto. Let me set that to auto. Okay, I have this already. So here, if you notice, we have some extra space. I'm going to do this and make sure that this is regular. So this is regular. I think regular is too light, so let's make it medium here. So now, since this is medium, we're going to put a heading for this. So the heading will be 24 hours. So here, service. So here, we're going to change this to 24, and then we're going to change this to bold here. So we have the service to 24, and then this is also set to bold. So now I will group these two items. So let's just make sure I align them properly. Then for this here, I don't want the color to be dark, so we can reduce the opacity to, let's say, 70 here, a little bit faint. This is our focus. So here I'll group these two items, Control G. Once you group them, we have this item here. So if you select these two, I will use this alignment tool to make sure that they are aligned, the text is aligned to the center. Please let me just do something so that we'll know why we're doing that. So let's say this 24 hours is here, and I select this two, and we use this. You see, it brings the 24 hours to the center of this. So please take note of that. So I can group these two items, Control G, group them together. So after grouping this, I want to make sure that these two items are touching this edge here. So if you zoom out to the last pixels, you see they are actually touching themselves. So after completing this particular section, what I want to do here is I'll make sure I select this item and then use Ctrl D to duplicate, then try to drag this out here. So dragging this, I just want to make sure that they are aligned together. So I could just, I could just make sure they are aligned together. I'll push this item till this text is touching this particular portion. So I can select the two. If you notice, they are not aligned. So we're going to use the alignment tool here to make sure that this is aligned. I think I have duplicate of this item here. So I would double click here and then open this group here. I'll make sure I'm deleting. Okay, I have nested group 24. I'll delete one of this 24 here, and I'll also delete one of this text here. So please, I think I'll be left with this, and I have an extra rectangle here, which I will delete. So now here, what we want to do here is we want to jump into the next section. So please, let's just check if these two items are aligned. So let me align them together now. So I have this. So now they are properly aligned. So the next section will be our team. So I'm going to type in our team here. So under our team page, what we want to do here is the size of this. I'm going to set that to, let's say, 45. So we're going to use the extra bold here. So I'm going to set that to bold. So I think we can make this 55. That looks better. So 55. So on this item, we want to add in some text. So I would simply grab this text here because I don't want this tutorial to be long. So that's why I'm taking this text. So now I'm going to paste this underneath this here after selecting my text here. So right now, what we want to do here is I want to make sure that I remove this text from this group. So I'll do Ctrl X to cut it from the group. You see, it's out of the group. Then I'll select outside and paste it in here. So if you don't do that, it will be inside this group. So I can drag this here and then bring this down to our theme here. So if you have more text, you can just add to just make the design more beautiful. So I'll just, let's say, online by subscribing, by subscription to our design. So please, I'm just trying to be a little bit creative with my words, but then it doesn't make any sense. But we just need the text to be there for sampling. So after this, the next thing I want to add is a rectangle here. So I want to add a rectangle, so I'll make this 52 by 52. Sorry, that should be 52 by 52. So this should have a stroke, and then we should remove the color here, and then it should have a border of 5. So this would have the next and then the previous item. So please, you're going to change the opacity of this like 30. Let's see if it's visible. Okay, 30 is visible, it's cool. So I'll duplicate this and have this 2 here. So we're going to add the previous icon and then the next, the greater than and then the less than. So I'll just make sure that this is aligned to this item here. So we're going to push this also. I'll hold a shift to push that quickly. So we have these 2 items here. We might end up changing the color of this stroke. I don't like it, but for now, we just stick to it. So the next thing we want to add here is the image for this, our users here. So I'll create a rectangle. For the first image, I'll be using the width should be 448 by 292. Okay, sorry, I'm changing this 292. Yeah, so we have this. So the border radius should be 10. Okay, let's say 10 is cool. So I'll duplicate this, Ctrl D, I'll drag it, and then just make sure I'm dropping this here. So please, I will just push this a little. So they call this masonry arrangement. So on some side, you see them, they use this a lot. So I can duplicate this also, bring this down here. But this time now, I will make sure that this is somewhere here. So for this, I'm going to change this to 256. Then the height, I'm going to be a little bit creative. Let's try 292. Okay, that is cool. Okay, so let's duplicate this again. So please, it's replicating the last movement I made. So for the third image, what I want us to do here also, we're going to make this the same. So but for the last one, I can duplicate this and then drag this here. So let's see how this look. We might want to add the width of this third image a little so that it just balances up everything from our spacing. We want our spacing to be, let's say, nearly the same with the one at the top. So please, the height, just make sure the height is the same. Okay, good. So I can select all my height are the same. I can select these items and then use this. So then we want to use the horizontal spacing. Make sure that this spacing is the same. So once I'm sure of this, I would just group these items. So this other one here again, I think I could just make sure that the spacing is the same here. Okay, it's starting here and then, yeah, because I know this one and this one is the same. So now we are done with the theme section. So we're going to look at the other section and then also work with that. So now we want to add the subscription page. So on the subscription page, I'm going to change this. I'll drag that here and then also drag that here. So I'll push this to the top a little. So please, we make sure that this is touching this point here. So I'm going to change the height of this to 220. Yeah, okay, I think we have a good height here. So the next thing we want to do here, after doing that, we want to give this a border radius of, let's say, 20. So now I'm going to pick a letter I here. So I can change this color, and then okay, we have this cool design. Oh, looks cool. So now I'm going to add a text here, which is subscribe to get information. Please let me zoom in so that we can see. Subscribe to get information. So here, under latest news. So I can just do a full stop here. So right now what we want to do here is we want to change the size of this. So I'll be changing this to 32, and then also I will make sure that this is bold. So 32 and then is bold. So what I want to do here is I want to add a rectangle where the user is supposed to fill in their email and make sure that this is white. And then I'm also going to give it a border radius of 10. So here I can just make sure that the width here is 330, okay, so that I can have a space for the button here. So the height, we're going to make that standard 52 here. So I think we added a border radius already to this. So our text here, we're going to say enter your email. So enter your email. So let me just start. Enter your email. So please, this is going to be 16, and then it's going to be, let's say, regular, and then you're going to reduce the opacity to, let's see how 30 looks. 30. Enter your email. Okay, good. So we have enter your email. So I can select this two and do the same alignment we've been doing. So please don't try to align it to center because it's going to bring the each center. So the next thing we want to do here is, for me, I can just make sure I'm selecting this rectangle and duplicate it, drag it out, and then resize it. So I'll resize this particular button here. So the width, I'm going to make it 130. Okay, so the height should be the same. So I have something like this. So this doesn't have to touch this particular portion. So I'll change this to red here. So I'll pick this color, that's for our button. So picking this, then we can just type in the word subscribe here. Subscribe. So we're telling the user to subscribe. So I'm just going to change this to medium. I just want to place more emphasis on this. So we can select this and then try to align these items, then group this. Then I'll also select this one here, the 2. Okay, we've done the alignment for this by using this. Then we group these items together. So having this now, all I want to do here is, okay, let's just try to increase this to, let's make it 40 and see. Okay, that's too big, but then if we make this 38, let's see, good. This is okay. So I'll make sure that this is at the center. So I'll select this and then this item here. So I'll make sure that this is at the center of my screen. So that means I can select this 2 here, make sure that this, okay, 3, make sure that they are on the same one here. So we have this item here, and then you can even space them, okay, to make sure that the space here is the same. But it doesn't matter because these 2 items are related. So I want them to be closer to each other because we can use a spacing to describe relationship in designs. So now this section, it's done. So we can just quickly group these items, select all of them, and then group them here. So we can name. So now that we're done with this section, what we want to do here is we want to quickly create the footer section. So to create the footer section, we're going to start with a rectangle, the same trick we did for the nav. So I'll drag this also. So we said we're going to change the height to 1 because we don't want to use a line. So if I change this to 1, we have this portion here. So what I want to do now here is I want to create an input. So before we do that, we're going to say subscribe to our newsletter. Subscribe to our newsletter. So here the heading here, I want to set this to 16, and then I'll make it bold, 16, and then bold, 16 bold. So I'll be creating a rectangle here also. So this, I'm going to make the width to 88, and then the height I'll stick to 52. Okay, good. So now I'm also going to change this. So let's see how 20 looks too much. Please, we're going to stick to 10 here. So here I'll just we have a color that we added here, so I want it to be this color here, this color. So if we're having this, so we're going to create a tiny button inside this. So this button, I'm going to create this, and let's say I'll make this 32. Okay, 32 by 32. Let's see. Okay, it's going to sit in very well. So I can make this 5, the border radius. Since the outer one is 10, this can be 5, and then this can be this right here. Let's see how this looks. Okay, this doesn't look bad. So we're going to add effects here to the user. Okay, I'm going to copy this here. Copy this, Control A, Control C. So here I'm going to tell the user, okay, you can, okay, let me change the text color. I think I'll have to remove it from the group. Please remove it from this group, and then here I can right click and bring to front here. So if I have my text here, please you can always take note of that. So having this now here, I'm going to change this to 14, and then okay, that looks good. So this is 14 here. So the next thing I want to create is the other navigations. So I'm going to create a home here, home, and this should be 16, and then it should be bold, 16, and then bold. So here that will be our first link here. So inside or under the home, I'm going to create the about. I'm going to create about. So the first one, Control D, I'm going to just do this 3 times again. So this will be contact, and then this other portion will be, let's say, portfolio. That's if you have portfolio. So I'm going to select these 3 items, change their size to 14, and then instead of bold, I'll make them regular. Yeah, something like this. Okay, good. So I'm going to change the opacity a little. So let's go 60 and see. Okay, this is good. So what I want to do is I want to push them up here, and then we make sure that the spacing between them is the same. So I'll add this home here. So I can use this icon, but if you don't have that, please, you can click here and then do the vertical spacing. So you can group this item, Control G. So after this, we're going to duplicate, Control D, drag this here, and then I'll do Control D, D again. So the next title here, I will be changing this to blog. So we have a blog here. So on this text, I'm going to change this to news. This will be our news section, news. Then on this other section here, this will be our designs. Then the last item here will be latest trends. Latest trends. Here, good that I changed this to a capital T. So the next heading here will be pages. Pages. So on my pages, I can have the pricing. Here I can also have maybe services, and then I can have career. As if you career. Then this other one should be the company, and have a company. So down here I can say we have about us. So we can leave this contact us here, or we can just change that to FAQ. I frequently ask questions. Then I can change this to, policy here. So I think we have this, and then we have some groups here, so I can just try to drag this here. So I'll make sure it's stopping here. I don't want it to touch the end. So now these items here, I'll select them, and then please I'll use the horizontal spacing. So I've spaced these items properly. So the next one here I want to arrange is this. So I'll make sure I group this item. So first let's start with the email, then horizontal spacing, then I'll do that for this. I've done that for all the three at once. So please, I can now group these items here. Ctrl G. So now we can have this here. So having this, we have our footer. So I can group this to Ctrl G. Please don't try aligning these items because we want the spacing in this manner here. So Ctrl G, please let's select this line also. Ctrl G. We now have our footer. But if you look at this, this is an empty page compared to what I showed you. So normally, if you want to create a page so that you can have maybe like a mock-up, a low fidelity and a high fidelity, you can always do something like this. So but the only thing here you would do is, let's say if you change this color, let's say I change this color back to, let's say, some default colors that are not here. So I will just try to do that here. Let's say I'll put black here. So black still gives this a color. So let me just scroll somewhere here. The page just told the user that okay, somewhere here. And then I'll do the same thing for this color here. I can select this here so that we can have a two portion of this app here. We'll create a low fidelity and then a high fidelity. Please, I'll undo that step. Make sure I'm selecting just the rectangle. Okay, I can do that. It's the same color. So we can leave that here since the color is not bright. The same thing with the logo here. So if I open this and then I click on this color here, so I'll do the same for this. So I'll change the color here. So what we have here is called a low fidelity. A low fidelity. So let's try to align these items and space them a little. So I'll group these two items here. I'll just push this a little here. Then our theme, I'll make sure that these items are grouped here. Ctrl G, I'll group them. So here, push them a little to the top, then followed by this group here, and then also this group here. So now we're going to group these items 1, 2, 3. This is one group. Ctrl G, and then I'll group this, the whole of this. I think they're already grouped. That's newsletter. So please here, let's rename this to our team. Our team here. We have our team. So here we have all this group here. So let's rename this to footer. Footer. So here I'm going to group this. Ctrl G. I'll just name this to, let's say, hero. That's our hero. So let's see which group is this. Okay, we can rename this to services. Service. So let's close this and see how many pages we're having here. So let me click on this. Okay, this has to do with our colors. This is our colors. So let's group these colors here. Ctrl G. I'll just rename that to colors. Color. So you see what we've done here is we've practically grouped these items in such a way that by the time I want to edit this portion of the website, now it's very easy for me to just come to the hero section. The same thing with services, the same thing with theme, and then the subscription, and then our footer here. So we're going to quickly create a high fidelity for this, where we're going to bring this web page to life. So to do that now, you're going to click on this prototype so that we can have two designs. Ctrl D to duplicate this item. So now most of the things I'll be doing here, we're just changing the colors, adding images. So from this, I'm going to Unsplash. If you have Unsplash, please, you can just open Unsplash. So I'll use Unsplash here. Unsplash. Okay, this is Unsplash. If you don't have that, you can type that on the search plugin. So this would just give me some images here. So here I will just search for, let's say, a staircase. Staircase. So here I'll just look for a staircase that I can use on my project. So please, you can pick any of the staircase you have here. So right now I'm just looking for a particular staircase that I want to use for this project. So instead of looking, please, you can always change them. So I will just pick maybe one of this. Please, I don't want that staircase, so I can pick this. So the next thing I want to do is, please, I want something a little bit darker. So let's zoom in and see what we're having here. I have this nice one I used on the original video and I can't find it here. So that's what I'm trying to search for. So let's say I use this staircase. So now the next thing I want to search for is, let's say, teamwork. So say teamwork. So I can click on this and then we can pick this teamwork. We can go here again and look for another teamwork. Let's try this and see which one is more suitable. Teamwork. No, I think this is preferable. So now I think we have this office space here. So you see we have our image. So now what I need here is I will just look for an office. So let's say office. Please, I might want to just swap some of these items here. This can hold the office because we want the office to be visible. Then we can just bring one of the teamwork here. So we can bring a teamwork. So we can bring one of this here. So now I'm done with this portion here. So let's give this a color, or let's add the image all before we go back to the colors. So right now what I want to do here is I'm going to look for maybe service, customer service. I'm going to drop this customer service here. Then here we can look for maybe policy. Okay, fast. Let's just look for something fast. I'm just typing fast. Okay, good. So we can change the heading here. Oh, I think this looks better. This is fast. Okay, we want something fast. So here, team member. So we'll just say, let's start with somebody in the office. Okay, we can search for maybe a woman in the office. Woman in office. Woman in office. So let's try this lady and see if she fits in. Woman in office. Please, we can just pick any. You can crop this actually, but okay. Let's see, this is the one here. If we don't have any option, we just crop the image here. So okay, let's just go with this. So now to balance it, we just look for man in office. Man in office. Man in office. So I can pick this. Okay, let's pick this man in office. Then here, let's pick a man in office, then a woman, then a man here. So I'll just bring the man here again. So I can just put this guy here. But I feel we can. Okay. So let's look for a woman in office. Back to woman in office. So let's look for somebody in the office. Okay, let's try this. But we don't want the guy to be visible. We just want a face. Okay, that's like our team now. I think we are done with all the portion that needs the image. So I can close this. So for this lady here, you notice that the image, just part of her head, it's just gone here. So what I want to do here is I'll click on the image. So make sure you select the field you're going to see image. So we can use the crop. So I can just drag this down a little, crop. I can push that down a little. Instead of dragging it down, just push it down. Yeah, we can. Okay, so if I close this now, you see we have her face here showing and then all the pictures here. So let's give this the colors, the appropriate colors. So let's talk, it's a button, so please you make sure that you're clicking on the rectangle. Double click till you get to the rectangle. So I here, I'm going to drop that and then pick this here. So the same thing with my E cup here. I'll click on this, the text E cup I, and then I'm just going to keep this here. So the next portion here is this. So I'm going to make sure you're selecting the rectangle, then I here. Please always try to double click to open those portions. So here I'll just double click, make sure I'm on the rectangle I, and then we just pick this item here. Then here also I'll just do this I here, then we pick this. So if you notice, we're done with most of the color here. We're done with the color selection. So now what we want to do here is we want to create a prototype for this. I want to make this in such a way that if you click on a portion, it will move. If you click on another portion, it's going to move. So here, right now, if you click on the prototype here, it's going to ask us to select a device here. So please, for the prototype we're working on now, we know we picked the MacBook Pro 14, which is this. So it's going to bring this item here for us. So now here, I want it in such a way that, so let's click on the menu here. Go to design, please. Click on the menu and go to the design. I want it in such a way that if the user click on this link, we want this item to move. So I think that means we have one thing we need to do right now. So now for us to do that, if you click on this and make this fix here, fix when scrolling. So let's just go ahead, click on this and see the output of what. So now, if you look at our design, we have this nice looking website here, but under this, the header is stuck there, but then it looks transparent, but you don't want that. So that is because our header don't have a background. So, but this is actually what we want. So for us to fix this problem, I'm coming back here. So what I need to do here is I need to create a rectangle here. So I'll just create a rectangle, and please, if you notice, it's like my rectangle is transparent. So what I'll do here is I'll drag this, I'll make sure it's filled. So please, if you're having the same issue, once you do this, use Ctrl X, and then make sure you're selecting this group, this nav bar. So after selecting this nav bar, use the Ctrl V to paste that inside. So you see it automatically close those items. So in my nav bar, so please drag it to the bottom here. So I'm going to push this to the top a little, and then make sure that the color is white. So but before we do that, let's just make sure that this is aligned. Okay, it's aligned at this point. You see red lines. So make sure that this is white. So if this is white, you see we still get our line here. So if I go back to our prototype here, you see it's scrolling properly now. So once this enters, you don't see that it's no longer transparent. Please, you can pause the video, watch that step again, and try implementing it in case you don't get that. So now the next thing we want to do here is, if the user clicks on service here, service, please make sure you double click till you get to service. Please, service should bring us back to this service section here. I think they have a group here, service section. So I want to point a group, so it's difficult for me to put. So now, instead of an instant scroll, we are going to animate this and then just increase the animation to 500 milliseconds. The same thing we're going to do for theme. We drag the theme and then just bring it somewhere here, our theme. So the theme, you scroll down, it's animated 500 seconds. The same thing with the contact here. We're going to drag this and then make sure that this is pointing to this portion of the web page here. Then for the home page, I'll make sure that it's pointing to this item itself here. So now if we go back to our prototype here, let's click on maybe home. You'll see it scroll to the home page. If I click on service, it takes me down to the service. If I click on home, it brings me, the theme brings me back to the theme. The contact should take me to this subscribe button here, this subscription section. So if I click on home, goes back here. So now we need to add 2 items here before we quickly round up. So I'll be using iconify. So we use iconify. So I'm just going to look for greater than. So I will pick one of this. Then I'll look for an arrow. Okay, I want one of this arrow facing forward. I'll just drag this and drop this here. So please, these are the 2 items we need. So now for these 2 items, please, I can resize this. Please go back to design. Let's resize this. Please lock this and then resize this to 16 or 14. Let's see how small this looks. So I'll drag this and drop this here. So make sure we're changing the color. I'll just change the color. Please, if you're selecting the vector, I don't think I'll be able to change that. You make sure you're selecting the vector. So and then I'll just pick this color here. So I'll duplicate this and then drag it here. So what I'll do here is I can rotate this. Let's say, okay, 90 degree. Okay, I'll make that 180, please. So 180. So I will do this. Okay, I have this. So then for this, my arrow here, I can select it, Ctrl X to cut it, and then we're bringing it to this group here. Ctrl V, I'm going to paste that arrow, and then I'll bring it somewhere here, and I'll change the color. Please make sure you're selecting the vector, change the color to white, so I can reduce this. Please lock this. I'll come back, make sure I'm selecting this arrow. I'll lock this and make sure I change this to maybe 8. Let's see, 8. Okay, please, that's 80. It's supposed to be 8. Okay, good. So I can drag this here, somewhere here. So you can align this if you want. I'll do this. Okay, good. So now our web page is complete. So you can even adjust the spacing if you want. You can take this, drag this here to the top. You know, it's already a group. And then we can take this and then arrange them just the white spacing here. If you feel the spacing are too much, you can try to add another item, but this is how to use white space in your project. So this brings us to the end of this tutorial. Please, if you like watching content like this, you can kindly subscribe to my channel. And then if you're new, please, you can also subscribe. Please subscribe. And then if you're just coming back, a regular visitor, please kindly leave a comment and a thumbs up. Thank you.